For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, alongside Chris Treviño for instant analysis from USC's Tuesday practice of Rivalry Week, with this game against UCLA coming on Saturday. Chris, what were your biggest practice observations from Tuesday's practice?
Well, for one, obviously with the weather, it was warm, but then once the sun went down, it got real cold real quick, and that's my weather observation. But it's Rivalry Week, as you mentioned, so of course the Trojan Short was duct taped up to prevent any vandalism or shenanigans from the Bruin fans or Bruin students. So that's how you know it's Rivalry Week. I saw a bunch of UCLA shirts across campus. So yeah, the rivalry is alive and strong here on campus with the students. And just in terms of practice observations, you did see Jalen Smith and Eric Gentry. They both came out in pads. Obviously, they did not travel for the Oregon game, and those were obviously two defensive guys who would have been starting in the lineup. So having them back in pads was a great sign for USC, getting them back this weekend, and they could have used them on Saturday. So I know defensive coaches are probably looking forward to getting those two playmakers back into the lineup for them. So that was a nice sign. Obviously, you still need to go through the week. Those guys are coming off different injuries, so we'll see as the week progresses, and we'll probably get an update on Thursday.
We also talked with Lincoln Riley as well as one of USC's co-interim defensive coordinators, Shaun Nua. Both of them had positive things to say about USC getting players back defensively. Riley didn't name any names specifically, but said that it looks like they're going to have some more guys available. And when Shaun Nua was asked, hey, are you going to get some of those guys back that you didn't have this week, he just said, hell yeah. So USC should be getting some players back. One player specifically that Connor, our colleague, asked about was Ceyair Wright, asking where he has been. And Lincoln Riley kind of gave an unfortunate update for Ceyair Wright, or an unexpected update. I'm not sure how to classify it, but he gave us an update on Ceyair Wright.
Right. I think the absence of Ceyair Wright is something that has been lost throughout the season because, the defense has been playing so bad. Alex Green gets fired, all these things are happening, and you kind of forgot that where's Ceyair Wright been? I haven't seen him at practice in maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks, so his absence has been noted. As someone who covers practice every day, he was a former starter, but Lincoln Riley stated that he's not with us right now. Obviously, that phrasing is a little bit weird, but he's not. I would assume he's saying he's not with the team right now, and that's all he gave, and did not say personal reasons, anything else about that. So, hoping for the best for Ceyair Wright, whatever is going on with him, but that as much detail as we got, that he's not with the team right now. Again, a guy who was a starter last season, started the year as a starter, kind of went through some ups and downs, got benched middle of the season, and then, hasn't been on the field and hasn't been with the team, hasn't been practicing for the last couple of weeks. So, hope everything's okay with number 22, Ceyair Wright, but we'll definitely get an update as we move forward through the end of this year and the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We also got to talk with Lincoln Riley just about the defense, their performance on Saturday against Oregon, as well as how much time he is putting in with the defense since firing defensive coordinator Alex Grinch. What were your thoughts about Lincoln Riley's thoughts about that side of the ball?
Yeah, obviously, the big plays were a thing that continued to kill, USC in that game, giving up a 70-yard touchdown, 81-yard touchdown, back-to-back in two consecutive drives to go down 14 points there early. So, yeah, those are backbreakers, and they can't happen, and they, can demoralize a team. That's what, Shaun Nua was talking about. But, you just had to get them confident on the sideline, get them back up to playing at a high level. And to their credit, they didn't allow anything like that in the rest of the game, but to start with that is a big detriment to the entire team. But he was happy with kind of the way the run defense played. Obviously, anything better than what the effort was against Washington was going to be better. So I guess in that sense they moved up a little bit, but so they improved a little bit. So I think he was happy, and he mentioned he was kind of happy with the way the run defense played a little bit better than it did against Washington State. Still not perfect, but you saw some improvement after the abysmal performance against the Huskies. So that was something he was, kind of hanging his cap on.
He also mentioned that he has been doing a little bit more work with the defense, although Jamil Muhammad said it's not like he came out of nowhere. He said if he still feels like Riley's been doing work with them all season, whether it is in the classroom, in the locker room, on the defensive side of the ball. He says that he's a big leader, and that was something that Shaun Nua talked about as well, is that through this stretch, Lincoln Riley has maintained being a good leader for the football program.
Yeah, he comes in, chin up high, still leading with energy, still leading with confidence, all those things. And what else would you want him to do as a head coach, as the face of the program and leader of the program? You can't come in, slouching, disengage, over it. You can't do that as the head coach of a college football program. You have to be the leader of the team, and if they see you doing that, they're going to do that. and that's going to carry over into, everything that's going on. So, I can't imagine him doing anything other than that, coming to work every day with the same energy, the same upbeat mentality, and, that chin up mentality, head up, keep looking ahead, because they have an opportunity to go out there and, beat UCLA. It's not going to salvage the season, but it can salvage some of it and keep USC fans a little bit happy about beating the Bruins across town and, keeping the bell here on campus. So that's still a big opportunity for them, and I feel like I'm doing coach speak with the opportunity, but it's true. If they go out and win against UCLA, that's something positive to end on the season. When you're 2-game losing streak, you lost so many games this year. So, yeah, I still think there's something to play for, and that is, a win over UCLA.
I think fans are sometimes unhappy when Riley doesn't just point out the team's flaws, doesn't outwardly say that they're not good enough. But I think you have to remember too, he is leading a group full of kids out to play football every week. He needs to inspire them. If he's talking with us about how much the team sucks, they're not going to want to be very excited to go out there and play. But Jamil Muhammad, who we mentioned we got to talk to, said that the team has really been responding well. They're keeping the same mindset, so mindset has not been an issue for the team as they've continued to lose games. Another big thing we talked with Riley about, I asked him a question because he talked after the game on Saturday as well as on Trojans Live yesterday about how banged up USC was, saying he didn't want to use injuries as an excuse, but the depth was really tested, and that was one of the big things that he talked about in the offseason was bringing competitive depth to the roster. So I asked after the game where your depth has been tested the most this season, how do you assess the job you did in the offseason? He said he thinks the depth is better this year than it was last year, but still needs to get better. Mentioned he thought they did a good job dealing with Gino Quinones' injury on the offensive line, losing Solo on the defensive line, but he says maybe in the secondary and then some other spots they need to do a better job of addressing depth going forward. So it's something that they feel like they've improved from last year, but still want to improve going forward into the Big Ten and a couple years into the Big Ten as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. They did do a lot of good work in bringing in more depth, bigger high school recruiting class, bigger similar size transfer class, and filling out more depth across the roster. You saw the difference, between Oregon's roster and USC's roster on Saturday. That's where USC's trying to get to. It's trying to get to, the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Alabamas and Georgias. Although depth they have stacked on stacked on stack, USC, when he got there, Helton recruiting was not great. So the cupboard was bare. They've had to replenish, and it's still an ongoing process. Yeah, he's right. It is better than it was last year, but it's not where it needs to be. They as you mentioned with the Quinones and Tuliaupupu injury, they were able to, absorb those injuries and kind of put out some better, not better lineups, but handle those injuries. Last year, I don't think they would be able to do that. I mean, obviously, at the end of the year, you have Brett Nealon and Andrew Voorhees go down, and those were absolutely killers for that offensive line. You didn't have the depth. Better handle it this year, but it's still not. It's a little still shaky, but it is, as you said, better than it was in 2022.
Kind of one last note, even this late in the season, we've had a media debut. We got to talk to Makai Lemon, previously a wide receiver, but saw really his first extended action for the team at cornerback this past week with all the injuries. What did you gain from what we heard from Makai Lemon?
Yeah, Makai Lemon, a guy who hasn't, kind of those wide receivers, that talented wide receiver group with Ceyair Wright, Juice Robinson, Jacoby Lane and himself, he hasn't really been the one to kind of break out. Jacoby Lane played a lot in the Oregon game, didn't catch a pass, but still was out there for critical reps. Juice Robinson's starting to emerge, and then obviously Ceyair Branch, one of the best freshmen in the nation. Makai Lemon, don't forget about him, and he's able to contribute for this team, and he says, I want to contribute anywhere I can. If that's on defense, I want to get on the field on defense. And, he came in, played pretty well in his limited, snaps. He found out earlier in the week, and he kind of been working. We've seen him work at cornerback before, but to actually get in a game, in a big game on the road in Autzen, I thought that was impressive. He's a guy who, many considered maybe a better quarterback prospect out of high school than he was wide receiver. Lincoln Riley said early in the year he is a wide receiver. He's going to be a wide receiver. This is just a temporary move, but I don't know, by the way people were talking, maybe, he does stick on the quarterback side. I don't know. He kind of said, I'll play whatever they want. And then I asked Rajon Davis about, Makai Lemon stepping in. He says, they recruited him to play both ways. So I don't know. I don't know what the feeling is right now with Makai Lemon, but a guy who's very talented on offense and defense. I would still like to see him get a little run at wide receiver because he's really special with the ball in his hand. So, or maybe he's a quarterback. Maybe we'll never see him catch a pass on the offensive side of the ball. Again, I don't know, but that's what the offseason is for.
One of the things he mentioned was that the wide receivers at the collegiate level. He's like, oh, everyone's got the talent. Everyone is good enough to be here. So that's one adjustment that he had to make from playing corner in high school. He also said he's learned a lot from USC's corners, as you would expect in the time that he has been working there. But yes, he did say he's not going to give up wide receiver. He's not going to commit to being either long term. He just said, I'm going to play where they want me to play, and anytime I can get on the field, I'm going to enjoy that. But Chris, before we wrap it up, do you have any final takeaways here from practice on Tuesday?
Nope, not really. I hope you get yourself a nice jacket. You look a little cold.
I feel totally warm.
Okay, he feels totally warm. That's his truth. Okay.
All right, well, Chris has needed to fill some time by judging, what would you call it? The thickness of the shirt I'm wearing. I feel totally fine. It's nice out here. But yes, I do not like how it gets dark now. Maybe we'll have some instant analysis on daylight savings time later on in the year. But for now, USC plays UCLA on Saturday. Big rivalry week. Seemed like the team definitely has the juice for the rivalry week, and they're not just going to phone it in because they have lost 4 of the last 5. But that's all we've got for you guys today. For Chris Treviño, I'm Jack Smith. Make sure you're checking out USCfootball.com for more.